First off, what is the status of your roadmap for America? Kind of like, where's it at, and what do you expect to see?
Well, so this year I passed the budget itself, called the Path of Prosperity. It took a lot of ideas and themes from the roadmap and put it into the House Republican budget. And so where the roadmap left off, the House Republican budget picks up. And so what the roadmap did was try to do four things: get job creation going in America, fix our social safety net, fix our retirement and health security programs, and get our debt paid off. That's precisely what the House Republican budget does. It has economic growth policies to create jobs. It saves the social safety net to prevent it from going bankrupt and repair the tears in the social safety net. It guarantees health and retirement security and makes these programs solvent so that they're there for our generation when we retire. And it puts in place a literal plan to actually pay off our national debt. So the Path of Prosperity, which is the House-passed budget now, is basically a third version, so to speak, of what we've been trying to do with the roadmap.
Okay. Well, now, like, where do you see it going?
Well, that's a good question.
Process? Yeah.
So the process is the House passes its budget. I'm moving around too far. The process is the House passes its budget, which is typically due, according to the budget law, by April 15th. We did that. But the Senate hasn't done anything yet, so we're still waiting to see if the Senate is going to pass a budget. We're becoming increasingly concerned that the Senate will be unable to pass a budget. And if that happens, then the budget process just stops. So if the House passes a budget, which we did, and the Senate does not pass a budget, because they can't, for one reason or another, then the budget process stops. What I think in this year's case, which is a little different, what will happen is the debt limit negotiations sort of take over in place of the budget itself. So if nothing happens in the Senate and the budget process stops, then we're probably going to convert over to our negotiating budget reforms and spending cuts on the debt limit.
Well, and that's kind of one of my other questions is in August, correct?
Yes. Yeah,
So
August 2nd
basically-
is what the Treasury Secretary is telling us.
So what happens when we run out of money? It sounds
So-
like we're already kind of
So the debt limit was hit, and so Treasury has a number of cash management things that it can do to buy a lot more time. And what the Secretary of Treasury is telling us is he can buy us until August the 2nd. And so what's going to happen is in those intervening days between now and then, the House, the Senate, and the White House are going to have to negotiate a settlement on raising the debt ceiling. Now, what we have said very clearly, and I said this yesterday in Chicago, and the Speaker of the House said this last week, is for every dollar of debt limit increase the President is requesting, we want to cut more than $1 worth of spending. The House Republican budget cut $6.2 trillion in spending. President Obama is asking for a $2 trillion limit in increase in the debt limit. So we've offered far more than enough of spending that can be cut to accommodate that kind of a debt limit increase. The point we're making is it will hurt our interest rates. It will hurt the bond markets if we simply rubber stamp another debt limit increase and show that America has no way of getting this debt under control. We need to start stabilizing our debt and getting our debt under control by cutting spending, because if we don't do that, this is going to start losing control and we'll have a debt crisis on our hands. And so we need to take this debt limit increase as an opportunity to get serious spending cuts. We're not talking about just billions of dollars in spending cuts, trillions in spending savings, and we want to have budget reforms to lock those savings in so the next Congress just doesn't come back and spend more money.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to people such as President Obama and even most recently Newt Gingrich criticizing your ideas and your plans?
Right. So I just disagree with Newt on this, and I think he's since sort of retracted some of his statements. What we're saying, there's a difference between us and the president on Medicare. And if I could sum it up in a couple of sentences, I'd basically say this. Our plan for Medicare says if you're 55 and above, no change whatsoever to your Medicare. We want to keep it intact for you because you already organized your life around it. You've already retired or you're about to retire. But in order to do that, we've got to reform it for the next generation. And the way in which we want to reform it is to have a plan that works like what members of Congress have, is a plan that is the same kind of idea that President Clinton's commission recommended. It's a plan that gives seniors the power to deny business to inefficient providers. President Obama's plan is far different. President Obama, his new law, creates a board of 15 bureaucrats that he'll appoint next year, and they're in charge of cutting Medicare payments to current seniors right now. That is a plan to give the power to the government to deny care to seniors. That will affect our current seniors' Medicare, and I fear that it's going to actually lead more and more providers just to drop Medicare altogether and not take seniors, which will result in waiting lines and lists. It'll be harder for seniors to be able to get the care they need when they need it. So what we're saying is, don't change the program for people who are already retired, but to cash flow that commitment, which I think the government should do, you got to reform it for those of us in the younger generation. Medicare goes bankrupt a lot faster than we even thought it was, according to last week's Medicare trustees report. And so we've got to get serious about saving this program. And the more we kick the can down the road, the worse the solution will be to fix it. And then current seniors will, in fact, get hurt and cut if we don't solve this problem soon.
There have been people who've stated that it's going to cost seniors $6,000 a year.
That's an
Where's
analysis
that?
from the Congressional Budget Office in about 30 years, they're claiming. And so what we're saying is there's no way Medicare can grow like it is. The president agrees with this. He's saying lower the growth rate of Medicare by having his board of bureaucrats ration care. We're saying use choice and competition to bring down costs and prices in Medicare for the next generation. This would work like the current prescription drug plan works today. That is a benefit that has multiple providers that seniors get to choose from. And this benefit came in 41% below cost projections. It saves seniors and taxpayers a lot of money because it gives the seniors the choice to fire the Medicare provider they don't like and hire another one they do like. And that act of competition has brought down prices and costs. Now, what the Congressional Budget Office does is they don't measure whether that's going to work or not. They simply take any plan and measure it against this mythical status quo, which is Medicare is about $31 trillion in the hole, meaning it has an unfunded liability by tens of trillions of dollars. And so any Medicare reform plan compared to that status quo is really a fiscal fantasy. And what we're saying is, let's get Medicare fixed so that we can make it safe and solvent so it's there for us. And what that analysis also failed to take into consideration is, if you're a wealthy person, you won't get as much money. If you're a low-income person, you'll get even more money, $7,800 on top of your average Medicare payment. So we're saying subsidize the low-income and the sick senior, the middle-income senior, a whole lot more than a wealthy senior. So in the future, under our Medicare reform proposal, a wealthy person won't get as much support from Medicare, but a middle and lower-income person would get far more support to stabilize their premiums. Doing it this way saves Medicare, makes it solvent, and gives us the ability to keep the program intact as it's currently designed for those who are already on the program.
But that sounds like there will be payments that seniors will have to make in the future.
Well, they do it right now.
Medicare.
Seniors already have to pay Medicare premiums today. Okay. So the way a premium support system works is it would work like Medicare Advantage works today. It would work like the prescription drug benefit, where you have a plan that you pick from, and then Medicare subsidizes that plan. Many
but there's
seniors,
some out-of-pocket,
yeah,
too.
there always is out-of-pocket. There's out-of-pocket today
Okay.
with Medicare beneficiaries. So this wouldn't be that much different for the future Medicare. We're just saying don't subsidize wealthy people as much. Means test the program and target finite taxpayer dollars to those people who need it the most and away from those people who need it the least.
So when that $6,000 per year figure comes in, is that comparable to what? Is that even accurate? And is that comparable to what people?
It's really an
pay
inaccurate
now?
comparison because it's comparing what Medicare is promising in 2030 and 2050, and there's no way Medicare can make those payments. Medicare has tens of trillions of dollars of empty promises that it's making. So comparing any plan to what Medicare is supposed to be in 20 or 30 years, there's no way Medicare can finance that. Okay. Medicare itself literally takes over all federal revenues at the end of the day. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, plus interest on the debt, consume every penny of federal revenue by the year 2025. These programs are growing so fast that we have to do something to arrest the alarming growth of these programs so that they don't bankrupt the programs and that still they don't bankrupt the country.